My name is Vanessa Hart. I'm 28, a software engineer in Portland, Oregon, living in the condo I worked years to buy. Everything was fine until one evening when my parents showed up at my door, suitcases in hand, claiming they'd lost everything to bad investments. They said they had nowhere else to go. I let them in, but something didn't feel right. Their faces were strangely calm, their story far too vague. Why were they acting as if nothing serious had happened? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The way they moved around my home, the way they looked at me, it all felt unsettling, like a storm was quietly building beneath the surface. And when the truth finally revealed itself, it shattered me. What I uncovered wasn't just about money or a roof over our heads. It was a betrayal so personal, so calculated, that it left me questioning everything I thought I knew about family. If you were in my place, what would you do? Share your thoughts and stay tuned to see how this shocking story unfolds. That evening, I got home from work around 6:30, exhausted from debugging code all day. My parents were standing outside my building, Catherine and Richard Hart, with matching, expensive-looking luggage. My stomach dropped. They never just showed up. Never. "Vanessa, sweetheart," Mom said, her smile tight, "we need to talk." I unlocked the door, my hands shaking slightly. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" Dad carried their bags inside without waiting for an invitation. "We've hit a rough patch financially," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Bad investments. Market fluctuations, you know how it is." I didn't know how it was. My parents had always been careful with money. Boring, even. "What kind of bad investments?" I asked, setting my laptop bag down. Mom waved her hand dismissively, already heading toward my kitchen. "Oh, it's complicated, honey. The important thing is we need a place to stay, just temporarily, until we get back on our feet." Temporarily. That word echoed in my head as I watched her open my cabinets, pulling out my carefully organized spice jars. "This setup doesn't make any sense, Vanessa," she said, her voice sharp. She started rearranging everything, shoving my curry powder next to my cinnamon like they belonged together. "Mom, I have a system," I started, but she had already moved on to my plates. Dad had claimed the couch, remote in hand, flipping through sports channels with the volume cranked up. "Nice place you've got here," he said, like he was touring a rental property. "Real nice." I stood in my own living room, arms crossed, watching them take over my space. It felt wrong, like I was a guest in my own home. "How long do you think you'll need to stay?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "Oh, we'll figure it out," Mom said breezily. "Don't worry about us." But I was worrying. Their suitcases were packed full, stuffed like they were moving in for good. And despite claiming they'd lost everything, Mom's manicure looked fresh. Dad's watch was new, a nice one I'd never seen before. "Can you show me the paperwork about the investments?" Mom's hands froze on a stack of bowls. "Don't worry about it," she snapped, then softened immediately. "You're such a good daughter, letting us stay. We raised you right." Dad grunted his agreement, eyes glued to the game. "Yeah, Vanessa, relax. We'll figure it out." Their dodges made my stomach twist. Why couldn't they give me a straight answer? I retreated to my bedroom, locking the door behind me. Something was off, way off. I grabbed my phone and texted Maya Patel, my best friend from college. She's a lawyer now, sharp as hell, and she's watched my family dynamics for years. "My parents just showed up claiming they're broke and need to stay with me. Something feels wrong." Her response came fast. "Wrong how?" Vague answers, expensive luggage, they're rearranging my entire apartment like they own it. "Trust your gut. Want me to look into anything?" I stared at my phone. Did I? That felt like crossing a line. But then I heard Mom in the kitchen again, humming as she reorganized my pantry. "Maybe. Let me think about it," I sent back. That night, I lay awake, my analytical mind cataloging inconsistencies. The new luggage, Mom's manicure, their calm demeanor, the way they'd avoided every specific question. Market fluctuations weren't an answer. Bad investments wasn't an explanation. And then there was the comment Mom made while unpacking, almost casual, throwaway. "Devin is doing wonderfully with his new business, you know."
My younger brother, the golden child. Why bring him up now when they were supposedly in crisis? I rolled over, staring at the ceiling. Portland's city lights filtered through my curtains, casting shadows that felt heavier than they should have been. My parents were in my guest room, sleeping soundly in my space, and I was the one lying awake with questions they refused to answer. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow, I'd push harder for the truth. The week that followed was a slow invasion. That's the only way I can describe it. Catherine didn't just stay in my condo. She colonized it. I came home from work on Tuesday to find her reorganizing my bookshelf. "These should be alphabetized," she said, not looking up. "How do you find anything?" "I know where everything is, Mom."
Well, now it's better. She smiled that tight smile again, the one that didn't reach her eyes. Richard had claimed my couch permanently, remote in one hand, coffee in the other, cycling through sports channels like it was his full-time job. "You got a nice setup here, kiddo," he said when he caught me staring. "Real comfortable." Comfortable for who, I wanted to ask, but I didn't. That's always been my problem. Keep the peace, don't rock the boat, be the low-maintenance daughter. On Wednesday, Mom suggested I take time off work. "You're always so busy," she said, rearranging my throw pillows for the third time that day. "You should spend time with family." "I have a project deadline," I said. "Projects can wait. Family is forever." Forever. The word hung in the air like a threat. Thursday, I met Maya for lunch at a Thai place downtown. She took one look at my face and ordered me extra spring rolls. "You look exhausted," she said. "They're not leaving," I said quietly. "They keep saying temporarily, but they've unpacked everything. Mom's reorganized my entire kitchen. Dad's talking about fixing my balcony railings." Maya's expression darkened. "Fixing them for what?" That's what I said. "And it's weird, Maya. They keep mentioning Devin, how well he's doing, how successful his new startup is. But if they're so broke they can't afford their own place, why does it matter how Devin's doing?" "What startup?" Maya asked. "Some AI blockchain thing, Neuralink innovations. I don't really understand it. Devin's never been technical." I paused. They paid for his private university education, his first 2 failed businesses. I paid my own way through state school with scholarships and part-time jobs. Maya's jaw tightened. "Vanessa, I know how it sounds," I said quickly. "Golden child, scapegoat, classic family dynamics. I'm over it. I'm fine with it." "Are you?" Maya challenged. "Because it doesn't sound like you're fine with your parents taking over your home." She was right. I wasn't fine. But admitting that felt disloyal somehow, like I was betraying them by questioning their story. That evening, I got home to find James Cooper, my neighbor, watering the hallway plants. He's 67, retired, lived across from me for 2 years. We have a friendly, neighborly relationship. Morning greetings, package collecting, that kind of thing. "Everything all right, Vanessa?" he asked, his eyes kind behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Fine," I said, automatically. "Why?" "Just noticed you've had guests. Your mother mentioned earlier they're staying a while." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I couldn't help but overhear her on the phone this morning, talking about the loft and downtown views. Seemed odd for folks claiming financial hardship." My heart stuttered. "The loft?" James nodded slowly. "Might be nothing, but in my line of work, I learned to notice inconsistencies." "What was your line of work?" I asked, though I'd never thought to ask before. "Forensic accountant, white-collar crime investigation, 30 years. He smiled gently. "Like I said, probably nothing. But if you ever need someone to look at something, well, I'm retired and bored." I thanked him and went inside, my mind racing. The loft. Downtown views. What loft? I found Mom on the phone in my kitchen, her voice slow. "Yes, she's fine with us staying," she was saying. A pause. "No, don't worry about it. Everything's under control." She hung up the moment she saw me. "Just checking in with a friend," she said, brightly, too brightly. "Which friend?" I asked. "Oh, you don't know her." Mom turned away, pulling ingredients from my fridge like she'd been living here for years. "I'm making dinner, that pasta you like."
It wasn't the pasta I liked. It was the pasta Devin liked, but I didn't correct her. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My phone glowed in the dark. I opened my messages and scrolled to my brother's contact. We weren't close. We'd never been close. He was 3 years younger, always the favorite, always forgiven. I almost called him. Almost. But what would I say? Hey, are mom and dad really broke, or is this some weird scam? It sounded paranoid in my head. Instead, I started a list on my phone. Mental inventory, data collection. That's what I do. I solve problems by gathering information. Inconsistencies. Expensive new luggage, mom's fresh manicure, calm demeanor despite supposed crisis, vague answers to specific questions, mentions of Devin's success, James's overheard comment about the loft, mom's secretive phone call. I stared at the list. Each item alone meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern that suggested my parents were lying to me. The next morning, I made a decision. I texted Maya, "Can you look into my family's finances? Something's not right." Her response was immediate. "Give me names and any details you have. I'll see what I can find." Then I texted James. "That offer to look at something? I might take you up on it." He replied, "My door is always open." I was about to cross a line I couldn't uncross, investigating my own parents. But as I watched mom reorganize my closet without asking, and dad sprawl across my furniture like he'd paid for it, I realized something. The line had already been crossed, just not by me.
I took a personal day from work, told my boss I had a family emergency. It wasn't a lie, exactly. I just didn't know yet how much of an emergency it really was. My grandmother had died 4 years ago. She'd left a trust fund, split equally between Devin and me, $400,000 each. It was supposed to be for our futures, down payments on houses, emergency funds, security. I'd never touched mine, didn't need to. I'd saved aggressively, bought this condo at 26 through discipline and overtime. The trust was my safety net, my just in case. Knowing it was there made me feel secure. I logged into the trust account at 9 a.m., coffee in hand, expecting to see the familiar balance. Maybe I'd even find a transfer from my parents' accounts, proving they were actually in financial trouble. The account balance stared back at me, $247.83. My hands went numb. I refreshed the page. Same number. I checked the transaction history, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. One withdrawal, 6 weeks ago, $398,742.17. Transferred to Neuralink Innovations, LLC, Devin's company. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering on my desk. I didn't even notice. I was too busy scrolling through the documents, my software engineer brain cataloging every detail with horrifying clarity. Catherine and Richard Hart, co-trustees, authorized to make transfers. But there should have been a notification. I should have been informed. I should have had to sign something. There was nothing. No email, no letter, no phone call. They'd stolen $400,000 from me and given it to Devin. I called Maya. My voice shook so badly I could barely speak. They took it. All of it. They gave my trust fund to Devin. "I'm coming over," she said. "Don't do anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. While I waited, I did what I always do when my world falls apart. I researched. I opened LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, every social media platform I could think of. Devin's Instagram was a showcase of luxury. Photos of a downtown Portland loft, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, designer furniture, a BMW in the garage, champagne at trendy restaurants, all posted in the last 6 weeks. My $400,000 transformed into my brother's lifestyle. I zoomed in on one photo. The loft address was tagged. I Googled it. Property records came up easily. Purchased 2 months ago. Owner, Devin Hart. Price? $1.2 million. My trust fund, plus investor money, plus God knows what else. And listed as residents at that address?
Catherine and Richard Hart. They weren't broke. They'd never been broke. They had given my inheritance to Devin, moved into his luxury loft, and showed up at my place to, what, play house? Guilt me into something? A knock at my door. Maya, looking professional in a black suit, briefcase in hand, she'd left work for this. "Show me everything," she said. We spread the documents across my dining table: trust paperwork, bank statements, property records, social media screenshots. Maya's lawyer brain processed it faster than I could speak. She said finally, her voice tight with anger, "They needed your consent. As a beneficiary, you should have been notified in writing at least 30 days before any major distribution. This is, Vanessa, this is potentially actionable." Actionable? Suable. Even criminal, depending on intent. She looked up at me, her dark eyes fierce. "They stole from you." Another knock. James, holding a manila folder, his grandfatherly face grave. He said, "I got curious about Neuralink innovations. Hope you don't mind. Old habits." He spread papers across the table. "This company is a shell. No viable product, no employees besides your brother and one technical co-founder. Websites all buzzwords and stock photos. But they've raised $800,000 from investors according to their SEC filings." Maya leaned forward. 800,000 on top of Vanessa's 400,000? Looks like it. James pushed his glasses up. "And your brother's paying himself a salary of $15,000 a month for a company with zero revenue." I felt like I was underwater. Everything was muffled, distant. I asked my parents knew about this? James pointed to another document. "This is a pitch deck. See these financial projections? They're fabricated. And this letter of recommendation for early investors, that's your mother's writing style. I'd bet money she helped write it." They weren't just enablers. They were accomplices. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "What do you want for dinner tonight? I'm thinking of making that chicken Devin always loved." I stared at the message. That chicken Devin always loved. Not me. Devin. Because I'd never mattered. Not really. I was just the responsible one. The one who didn't need help. The one who could be relied on to take care of herself. The one who could be robbed without consequence. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Maya's hand was on my shoulder, firm and grounding. "Breathe, Vanessa. In through your nose, out through your mouth." I followed her instructions, fighting panic. James got me water. They let me sit there shaking as the full scope of the betrayal settled into my bones. I whispered, "What do I do?" Maya and James exchanged glances. "You confront them," Maya said. "Tonight, with evidence, and I'll be here to make sure it stays civil." James nodded. "And if they don't leave voluntarily, you have every right to make them. This is your home. They lied to get in here." I looked at the evidence spread across my table. $400,000. Years of careful planning by my grandmother, stolen by my parents and handed to my golden child brother who'd never worked for anything in his life. They thought I'd never find out. Or worse, they thought I'd find out and just accept it. They were wrong. "Okay," I said, my voice stronger now. "Tonight. I confront them tonight." I waited until evening. Maya stayed, sitting quietly on my couch with her briefcase. James had gone back to his place, but texted, "I'm right across the hall if you need me." Mom was in my kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. Dad watched TV, oblivious. They looked so comfortable, so settled. I set my laptop on the dining room table and opened the trust fund statements. My hands were steady now. The panic had burned away, leaving something harder behind. "Mom? Dad? We need to talk." Catherine looked up from the stove, eyebrows raised. "Can it wait, honey? Dinner's almost ready." "No." I turned the laptop screen toward them. "We need to talk about the $400,000 you stole from me." The color drained from Mom's face, then rushed back in an angry flush. "Stole? How dare you accuse us of—" I have the bank records. My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this. One transfer, 6 weeks ago. My entire trust fund moved to Neuralink Innovations without my knowledge or consent. Richard stood up, his jaw tight. Now, Vanessa, let's not be dramatic. I also have property records showing you're both living in Devin's downtown loft, the one he bought with my money. I pulled up the Instagram photos on my phone. These are from his account, posted 3 weeks ago. That's my inheritance turned into his furniture. Maya spoke up from the couch, her lawyer voice cold and professional. As beneficiary, Vanessa should have received written notification 30 days before any major distribution. You violated the terms of the trust. Catherine's face twisted. It was for the family. Devin needed help. He's building something important, something that could change all our lives. He's building nothing, I interrupted. James looked into the company. It's a shell. No product, no employees, just Devin paying himself $15,000 a month of investor money. You had someone investigate your own brother? What kind of person? The kind who deserves to know where her inheritance went. I stood, facing them both. You lied to me. You said you lost everything to bad investments, but you didn't lose anything. You gave it all to Devin, moved into his luxury apartment, and came here to, what? Use my place as a backup? Guilt me into supporting you next? Richard's face was red now, angry. We're your parents. We don't owe you explanations for our decisions. It wasn't your decision to make. My voice cracked. That was my money. Grandma left it to me. Not to Devin through you. Catherine switched tactics, her eyes filling with tears. It was for the family. Devin has potential. He's going to be somebody. You already have a good job, a nice place. You don't need the money like he does. I don't need it? I stared at her. Or you just didn't think I deserved it? The silence was deafening. Mom's tears stopped as quickly as they'd started. She looked at me with something cold in her eyes. Devin deserves everything, she said quietly. He's special. He's always been. You've always been fine on your own. You don't need us. There it was. The truth, finally spoken aloud. I'd always known I was second, but hearing her say it, so matter-of-fact, so certain, it broke something in me. Something I didn't know could still break. Get out, I said softly. What? Richard stepped forward. Get out of my home. You have 24 hours to pack your things and leave. Catherine laughed, sharp and bitter. You're kicking out your own parents after everything we've done for you? You've done nothing for me. My voice was steady again. I put myself through college. I bought this place. I built my life, and you stole from me to give to him. We have nowhere to go, Mom said, a threat in her voice. You have Devin's loft, the one you're paying rent for. Or not paying for. I don't actually know how that arrangement works. Richard's face darkened. If we leave, you'll never see us again. 24 hours, I repeated, or I call the police. Maya stood, her presence solid beside me. I'd advise you to take the 24 hours, Mr. and Mrs. Hart. They didn't move, just stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the daughter they thought they knew, the compliant one, the easy one, had never really existed. You'll regret this, Catherine said, her voice trembling with rage. But as she stormed to the guest room, Richard following, I felt something unexpected. Relief. 24 hours passed. They didn't leave. Instead, Catherine launched a campaign. I came home from work to find her in the hallway, crying to James. "She's throwing us out! Her own parents! We have nowhere to go!" James met my eyes over her head, his expression unreadable. "That's difficult," he said neutrally. Inside my apartment, Richard was on the phone, his voice angry. "Yes, my daughter is kicking us out. I know, it's unbelievable. No, we did nothing wrong." I texted Maya, "They're not leaving." Her response, "Call the police for a civil standby. I'll walk you through it." My hands shook as I dialed 911. "Hi, I need officers at my apartment. My parents are refusing to leave my property after I've asked them to vacate."
Catherine's head whipped around. "You're calling the cops on us?" I didn't answer, just gave the dispatcher my address and waited. Officer Monica Diaz arrived 30 minutes later with a partner. She was professional, calm, and completely unmoved by Catherine's immediate tears. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down," Officer Diaz said firmly. "Let's start with who lives here." I showed her my lease, my ID, my mortgage papers. I'm the sole owner. They've been staying here as guests. I asked them to leave yesterday, and they refused. "These are our belongings," Richard protested, gesturing at the suitcases. "You can't just throw us out." Officer Diaz turned to him. "Sir, if she's the property owner and wants you to leave, you need to leave. This is a civil matter, and her rights are clear." "After everything we've done for her," Catherine wailed, fresh tears streaming. "We put her through school. We raised her." "You didn't put me through school. I put myself through school with scholarships and 3 part-time jobs while you paid for Devon's private university. You didn't raise me. You tolerated me while you focused on him." The words hung in the air. Officer Diaz's expression didn't change, but her partner shifted uncomfortably. "You have 30 minutes to gather your belongings. Take only what belongs to you." Catherine packed with theatrical slowness, crying the entire time. She tried to take my towels, my dishes. Officer Diaz made her put them back. Richard was silent now. His anger turned cold. As he zipped his suitcase, he looked at me with something like hatred. "You're no daughter of mine," he muttered. The words should have hurt. Maybe they did, but mostly I felt numb. James appeared in my doorway as they were leaving, his presence a silent support. Catherine tried one more time. "You're tearing this family apart." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who'd given birth to me, but had never really seen me. "I didn't tear it apart, Mom. I just stopped pretending it was whole." They left. Officer Diaz waited until they drove away before turning to me. "You did the right thing," she said. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did." After she left, I stood in my empty apartment. My space. Mine again. James squeezed my shoulder. "Coffee tomorrow?" he offered. I nodded, unable to speak. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The peace lasted 3 days. Then the messages started. Aunts and uncles I barely knew, sending texts dripping with disappointment. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, leaving voicemails about family loyalty. All of them echoing the same story. I'd abandoned my parents in their time of need. Catherine had been busy. "They're doing a smear campaign," Maya said when I showed her my phone. "Classic manipulation. Control the narrative before you can." I scrolled through Facebook posts and family groups I didn't even know existed. "Pray for Catherine and Richard, abandoned by their ungrateful daughter." My chest felt tight. Even knowing it was manipulation, seeing my name dragged through extended family felt like being branded. I needed perspective. I needed someone who knew the real history. I called Aunt Carol, my father's sister, estranged from the family for years. We'd exchanged birthday cards, occasional texts, but never real conversations. She answered on the second ring. "Vanessa, is everything all right? I need to ask you something. About my parents. About everything." There was a long pause. "You finally figured it out."
Figured what out? That they've been setting you up as the scapegoat your entire life. Carol's voice was gentle but firm. I cut ties with Richard 15 years ago because of how they treated you. The favoritism, the gaslighting. Your grandmother saw it too. That's why she set up the trust fund the way she did. Equal shares, supposed to be protected. They took my share, gave it all to Devin. Of course they did, Carol sighed. Vanessa, your mother has been funneling money to Devin for years. His first business, they emptied their savings. His second, they took out a second mortgage. This trust fund was just the latest. My head spin. Why didn't anyone tell me? Who would? Your parents controlled the narrative, and you were always so self-sufficient. I think they counted on that, on you never asking questions. We talked for an hour. Carol filled in gaps I didn't know existed. Stories of Christmas gifts, elaborate for Devin, practical for me, college visits, campus tours for him, nothing for me. Every family event, every milestone, the pattern was there. I just had been too close to see it. When I hung up, James was knocking. Got something you need to see, he said, holding his laptop. We sat at my kitchen table. He pulled up corporate filings, investor documents, SEC reports. Your brother has been lying to investors, James said. He claimed the trust fund money was from angel investors to make the company look legitimate. He's also been fabricating progress reports. That's fraud, I said slowly. Securities fraud specifically. James scrolled through more documents. And look at this signature on the investor pitch materials. I leaned closer. The handwriting was familiar. Elegant loops, careful spacing. My mother's handwriting. I said she helped him. She didn't just enable it, she participated. James nodded grimly. There are 6 investors who've put in about $800,000 total. They think they're funding the next big tech startup. They have no idea it's built on stolen inheritance and lies.
I thought about those investors. People who'd trusted Devin, who'd believed his charisma, his promises, who had no idea their money was funding his lifestyle while he produced nothing. What do I do? I asked. James closed his laptop. That's not for me to decide. But those investors deserve to know the truth, and your brother deserves consequences. After he left, I sat alone with that knowledge. My parents weren't just emotionally manipulative. They were criminals, and they'd raised my brother to be one too. The question was, what was I going to do about it? Maya came over that Saturday with coffee and determination. James brought bagels and his forensic expertise. We sat around my dining table, now a war room. You have options, Maya said, pulling out legal documents. We could report the trust fund irregularities, civil suit, but that's just your parents and the penalties would be minimal. The investor fraud is different, James added. That's criminal. SEC violations, wire fraud. Your brother could face serious charges. I stared at the evidence spread across my table. Bank statements, investor documents, Devin's Instagram showing a lifestyle funded by other people's money. My money. If I report it directly, I'm the villain, I said slowly. The vindictive daughter who destroyed her family. Exactly, Maya leaned forward. But what if the investors found out on their own? James nodded. They're already suspicious. One of them, Alexis Chen, has been trying to get quarterly reports from Devin for months. She's smart. Give her a thread to pull, and she'll unravel the whole thing. Anonymous tip? I asked. Untraceable. Maya pulled out her laptop. We set up a secure email, send her just enough to start asking questions, let the investors do the rest. It felt calculated, strategic, not like me at all. But then again, the old me would have never kicked her parents out either. What happens to them? I asked quietly. To my parents, to Devin. James's expression was gentle. Consequences. Legal ones. Probably criminal charges for your brother. Your parents, depends on how deep their involvement goes. They'll lose everything, I said. They already took everything from you, Maya countered. You're not doing this to them. They did it to themselves. I thought about what Carol had said. Years of favoritism, years of being overlooked,
Years of watching my parents pour money into Devon's delusions while I worked 3 jobs to pay for textbooks. James spoke up, his voice soft. I once investigated a family business. Father embezzled from his kids' college funds. The children who reported it felt guilty for years, but you know what? Their siblings thanked them later. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face consequences. It's the only way they learn. I looked at Maya, who nodded encouragingly, then at James, whose weathered face showed only support. Okay, let's do it. We spent the next 3 hours crafting the perfect anonymous email. Not too detailed, we didn't want to reveal who sent it, but enough to raise red flags. We mentioned the trust fund transfer listed as angel investment, the fabricated progress reports, Catherine's involvement in pitch materials. Maya used a VPN and a burner email address to send it to Alexis Chen. Then we sent similar messages to the other 5 investors, each slightly different to avoid looking coordinated. Now we wait, James said. I visited Aunt Carol that evening, needed to talk to someone who understood the weight of what I was doing. You're not destroying your family, she said firmly, pouring tea in her cozy kitchen. You're holding them accountable. There's a difference. It doesn't feel different, I admitted. It never does. When I cut ties with Richard, I felt guilty for years. But Vanessa, some family systems are built on exploitation. The only way to escape is to dismantle them completely. She hugged me before I left, the first real family hug I'd had in longer than I can remember. That night, I lay awake, my phone on my nightstand. Devon's Instagram was still public, still posting, a photo from some trendy restaurant, cocktail in hand, caption about celebrating the grind. The grind he wasn't doing, the celebration funded by people he'd lied to. I thought about backing out, deleting everything, pretending I'd never found out. But then I remembered Catherine's face when she said, Devon deserves everything. Not, we made a mistake, or we should have told you. Just that simple truth. He deserved it all, and I deserved nothing. I picked up my phone and opened my notes app, started writing, processing, documenting everything for the legal proceedings I knew were coming. By morning, I'd written 30 pages, and I didn't feel guilty anymore. The first crack appeared on Tuesday. Maya called me at work, her voice tight with excitement. Alexis Chen contacted the other investors. She's comparing notes. Already? My heart raced. She's sharp. The second she got that anonymous tip, she pulled all her documentation, found inconsistencies immediately. Now they're all talking. By Wednesday, Alexis had hired a lawyer. By Thursday, all 6 investors had formed a coalition. By Friday, they'd filed a civil lawsuit against Neuralink Innovations and Vanessa Hart personally. James kept me updated on the public filings. SEC investigation opened this morning, he said, showing me his laptop. Once they start digging, they'll find everything.
I watched it unfold like a slow-motion car crash. Devon's Instagram went silent, the loft was listed for sale, his LinkedIn changed from CEO Neuralink Innovations to just his name. Then, on Sunday evening, someone pounded on my door. I looked through the peephole. Devon. His face red, eyes wild. I texted James and Maya simultaneously. Devon's here. James responded, on my way. I opened the door with the chain still on. What do you want? What do I want? Devon's voice cracked. You ruined my life. You told those investors you sabotaged everything. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said calmly. It wasn't technically a lie. Don't lie to me. This is you. It has to be you. He slammed his hand against the doorframe. They froze my accounts. They're taking the loft. Mom and Dad have nowhere to live. Neither did I when you stole my trust fund, I said. His face twisted. That wasn't stealing. Mom and Dad made an investment decision. Without telling me, without my consent, for a company that doesn't exist. It does exist. I was building something. You were paying yourself $15,000 a month while producing nothing. That's not building. That's fraud. James appeared behind me, his presence solid. Maya was coming up the stairs, phone in hand, recording. Devon saw them, and something broke in him. This is because of them.
isn't it? They turned you against family. You turned me against you, I said quietly. When you took everything Grandma left me and spent it on furniture and cars and restaurants. When you lied to investors. When you let Mom and Dad use me as a backup plan. They were trying to include you, he shouted. They told me to offer you a position in the company if you just stop being difficult. The words hung in the air. Maya's camera was still recording. Stop being difficult, I repeated. You mean stop asking where my inheritance went? Devin seemed to realize he'd said too much. I didn't mean, look, we can fix this. Just tell them you made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. You did. All of you. His expression shifted from desperate to angry. You're gonna regret this. When we're gone, when you're alone, you'll wish... I need you to leave my property. Now. James stepped forward. You heard her. Devin looked at me one more time, and I saw it clearly. He genuinely believed he was the victim, that I'd betrayed him, that he'd done nothing wrong. You were always jealous, always wanted what I had. I wanted what was mine, I corrected. There's a difference. He left. Maya stopped recording. James locked my door. That was good evidence, Maya said, reviewing the video. Him admitting your parents knew about the trust fund transfer? That helps. I sat on my couch, suddenly exhausted. He really thinks he did nothing wrong. Entitlement is a hell of a drug, James said gently. That night, I got an email from Aunt Carol. Heard about the lawsuit through the family grapevine. Proud of you. Stay strong. And despite everything, despite the chaos, the anger, the family implosion, I felt something unexpected. Peace. They came to my workplace on a Tuesday. I was in a meeting when my boss's assistant knocked. Vanessa, there are people in the lobby asking for you. They're causing a scene. My stomach dropped. I excused myself and went downstairs. Catherine and Richard were in the reception area, Mom's voice echoing off the modern glass walls. We need to speak to our daughter. It's an emergency. Mom, I stepped out of the elevator. You need to leave. Her face was haggard, makeup smeared. You have to fix this. The lawyers, the charges, Devin could go to prison. That's not my problem. I kept my voice low, professional. People were staring. You started this, Richard's voice boomed. You sent those investors after him. I didn't send anyone anywhere. Devin defrauded them. That's on him. You ungrateful... Catherine lunged forward. My boss appeared, security behind him. Mr. and Mrs. Hart, you need to leave or we'll call the police. This is our daughter, Catherine shrieked. You have no rights here, my boss said firmly. Please leave. Security escorted them out. Catherine was crying, screaming about betrayal. Richard's face was purple with rage. I stood there, shaking, as my coworkers pretended not to stare. My boss touched my arm gently. Take the rest of the day. We'll handle this. At home, I found an email. Long, rambling from Catherine. It cycled through every manipulation tactic she'd ever used. Guilt, like after we sacrificed everything for you. Gaslighting. You're remembering things wrong. Threats. You'll regret this when we're gone. And finally, a complete rewriting of history where she and Richard were the victims of my cruelty. I saved the email and called Maya. I need to end this. One final conversation. Are you sure? She asked. I need closure on my terms. We met them at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Maya came as my witness, my support. I'd prepared a statement, printed it out. When I sat across from my parents, I didn't give them a chance to speak first. I'm going to read this, and then I'm leaving. You don't get to interrupt. My hands were steady. I will not be providing financial help, emotional support, or any further contact. You stole from me, lied to me, and attempted to exploit me. Those were your choices. The consequences are also yours. Vanessa, please.
I'm not finished, I kept reading. You raised me to believe I didn't matter as much as Devin, that his needs were more important than mine, that my job was to be easy, convenient, low maintenance. I believed that for 28 years. I'm done believing it. Richard's face was hard. You're destroying this family. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it was intact. I folded the paper. You made Devin a criminal. You participated in fraud. You stole my inheritance. These are facts, not my interpretations. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, this time. You'll regret this when we're dead. When you're alone and you realize... I realize I have people who actually care about me. Maya, James, Aunt Carol. They're more family than you ever were. I stood. Maya stood with me. Wait! Richard grabbed my arm. I pulled away. You're going to face charges, I said quietly. The SEC has the evidence. Ethan, Devin's partner, is cooperating. He has emails showing Mom helped fabricate investor materials. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Catherine's face went white. You did this. You gave them that information. I didn't have to. You left a paper trail. Devin left a paper trail. You did this to yourselves. I walked out of that coffee shop with Maya beside me. Catherine's voice followed. You're just like your father's sister, cold, heartless. Good, I said, not turning back. Carol's the only decent person in this family. Outside, Portland rain was falling. Maya opened her umbrella, sharing it with me. How do you feel? She asked. I breathed in the cool air. Free. And I was. 6 months later, my life looked nothing like it had before. The legal proceedings wrapped up in March. Devin pleaded guilty to securities fraud and got 3 years probation, community service, and a permanent ban from serving as a corporate officer. Catherine and Richard took a plea deal, restitution, and 2 years probation for their role in the fraud. I got back $200,000 from the settlement. Legal fees took the rest. But I didn't care. It was never really about the money. I blocked their numbers, their emails, every social media account. Cut them out completely. And I started therapy. Dr. Martinez was patient as I worked through it all. The guilt, the anger, the grief for the family I'd wanted but never had. You're not mourning what you lost, she told me one session. You're mourning what you never had in the first place. That hit harder than any confrontation. But life got better in ways I didn't expect. Maya and James became my real family. Maya came over every Sunday for brunch. James taught me to play chess on Tuesday evenings. We celebrated holidays together. Thanksgiving at Maya's family's house, where her parents treated me like another daughter. Christmas with James, Carol, and a few other relatives Carol brought into my life. Turns out I had family, just not the ones I was born to. Work changed too. I advocated for myself in ways I never had before. Asked for the promotion I deserved. Got it. Lead software engineer now, heading a team of 5. The confidence I found standing up to my parents bled into every other part of my life. And then there was Marcus. I met him at a coding meetup in April. He was funny, kind, came from the healthiest family I'd ever seen. The first time I met his parents, they asked about my interests, my work, my opinions. Actually listened to the answers. I almost cried in their bathroom. Why are you so surprised my parents are normal? Marcus asked, later, genuinely confused. Because mine weren't, I said simply. He held my hand, didn't push for details, just accepted it. In May, I started volunteering with a financial literacy program for young adults, teaching college students about budgeting, investments, protecting themselves from exploitation. One girl came up to me after a session. My parents keep asking me to co-sign loans for my brother. I thought I was being selfish for saying no. You're not selfish, I told her. You're protecting yourself. There is a difference. She hugged me, crying. I understood completely. Last week, I redecorated my entire condo. New curtains, bright ones that let in Portland's rare sunshine. New furniture arranged exactly how I wanted. Every choice mine. Every decision intentional. Tonight, I'm hosting dinner.
Maya is bringing wine. James is making his famous lasagna. Carol is coming with her partner. Marcus is bringing dessert. I'm standing in my kitchen, setting the table, when my phone buzzes. An email from an address I don't recognize. My finger hovers over delete, but curiosity wins.
It's from Devin. I've been thinking about everything. I'm in therapy now, court mandated. I'm starting to understand what I did, what we all did to you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry. You deserved better. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for excuses, but it seems genuine, raw. I don't respond. Maybe someday I will, maybe not. That's the thing about boundaries. I get to decide. The doorbell rings, Maya holding wine and grinning. I brought the good stuff. James arrives next, lasagna pan in hand, Carol and her partner, Marcus with a chocolate cake. We crowd into my small dining room. Too many people, too loud, too chaotic. Perfect. A toast, Maya says, raising her glass. To Vanessa, for teaching us all what real strength looks like. To families we choose, James adds. And boundaries we keep, I finish. We clink glasses. I look around at these people, my people, the ones who saw me, valued me, supported me through the hardest thing I'd ever done. My parents were right about one thing. Devin deserved everything they could give him, all their money, all their enabling, all their excuses. And I deserved what I gave myself: freedom, self-respect, and people who actually love me. I wouldn't trade that for anything, not even $400,000. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.